Very fun.
Yeah.
Can you see the whole course?
You can walk through the whole course.
You can walk through the whole course.
Yeah.
But when you're watching the race, I've always
Oh,
wondered
God, no.
because...
Oh,
well,
God, no. You can see 20 seconds maximum.
Okay. But
At any given
the guys down below sitting in the hot seat and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's like they react when somebody crisis or something.
There's a big TV.
How can
They
they
see the Red Bull.
There's a big TV.
Oh, they're watching the
same
TV.
radio
Okay,
feed.
okay.
They got a big live stream TV down there.
All right.
Actually, so the race that I was there, which was the Wednesday race 1.
Yeah.
I was standing right next to where the awkward double drop was underneath the chairlift. They
Right.
come out of the rock garden, they plop off that rock onto that ledge, and then they drop immediately down into that chute.
Yep.
So we had a nice stretch. We could see maybe 15 seconds of riding. And it was a really cool location because that section was really difficult. A lot of racers really struggled with that.
Right.
But the cool thing we did with modern technology, although the cell coverage was terrible there, we found one little spot where I could stand correctly and I could get bars. So we had the live stream, picture-in-picture, with the quali list pulled up in the background. So
Oh my God.
we had the race broadcasting, so we could see where they were above us and where they were below us. There was a little delay, but maybe 10 seconds.
Okay.
And then we had the quali list, so we knew who was coming next.
Yeah.
And so basically it was like we had all the information that we wanted, and we were also engaged. So it was really cool. But I gotta say, to watch the race, like me and Nia were talking about, to watch the race, the live stream is superior almost in every way.
Is that right?
I mean, you don't get the intensity of being there, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
Yeah.
But I think the most fun of the race is being there on practice day 1 practice. Quali practice is cool too, but it's the first day when they're working out the course.
Yeah.
And you get to hike up into all the different sections, and you can see where they'll stop, they'll work through stuff, they'll try different things, they'll push back up, go again. To me, that was the most interesting part of the race because you really get to see them working, the professionals working. And you know, a lot of people just roll through on their practice runs, but the top guys all stop.
Stop. I was going to say, they get off their bike and
they all
they
stop
look.
in a handful of sections, and
Uh-huh.
they'll watch other people come through.
Okay.
They'll sit and they just sit and look, and they're just looking to see how people go and how the wheels are hitting, and then they'll push up and then try from what they've gained from stopping. A lot of them have team support guys on the track who then they'll actually talk to. They'll stop in those key sections, and they've been watching already. And they'll be like, okay, this is what we're seeing here. This is what I think you should try. PD does that. You know, a number of team guys do that. So that was the best part, was just to watch the actual craft of figuring out how they want to race. They're not practicing how to ride.
Yeah.
They're practicing how they can go as fast as possible.
Right.
Like that's what practice is. Like you can tell they already know that they can do anything they want on the track. It's just figuring out what to do.
Yeah.
It's like they already know they have any move available that they really are interested in. It's about whether or not it makes sense, whether the risk is worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably the best part for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, cool. Did you see both or?
No, we only
first
could go for the first one, but I got to stay for day 1 practice of the second race. So I got to hike up and see that new rock section that they had never raced before.
Okay.
And I filmed quite a bit of that. It's on my Instagram. I couldn't get it to post on my Facebook, but because the videos I think were too big. But yeah, that was, like I said, that section was probably the best part of the whole weekend for me, or the whole week, was to see them riding a new zone that they had never ridden before.
Yeah.
And that they had to stop and be fresh, green, you know, never seen it, and just to see them work it out from a complete blank slate, I think that was the best part.
It was all new track, right? It's not in the U.S. Nationals either, right?
I think it was a track that had been ridden at some point.
Gotcha.
They said, like, because the upper part where the S turn was,
Yes.
there's that giant rock there,
Yes.
that I guess some people, the course used to, like, people would use it as a drop. They would go
Got it.
through the corner off
Okay.
that,
Yep.
which actually, when I thought about it, was like, but it would just be too hairy for what it sets you up to.
Yep.
So I think it, you know, because Snowshoe used to be on the circuit quite regularly on the Norba way back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
So there was a number of different lines up there that they used,
Okay.
and even on the spectator paths where you could walk,
Yes.
you could see
on
like
the track.
you're like I think they raced through here. You could, like the way the rocks were kind of matted
Yeah.
down. I think there's a bunch of lines on that hill.
Good to know.
That because that's what I gathered from. I think it was when I think it was WinTV or somebody. I forget who it was. It was on track filming that section.
Yep.
And I believe it was a spot that, yeah, but who knows? It would have been in like, I don't know, early 2000s.
Right, so Greg's the only guy that raced it.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. And of course, he didn't race because he got hurt. So,
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Greg was.
I feel
hurt.
bad. I wonder if I cursed him because I asked for an autograph on quality day, and that's when he got hurt.
That's probably
Mhm.
what
No.
I did. I screwed him. I got my autograph, but yeah.
Whatever
Anyway,
it takes, I guess.
where he crashed, a lot of people had a problem there. Loris hit that tree.
Yes.
And we walked up through it after the first race on our way back up the hill. That section is so much tighter than the camera shows.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the low line looks good, and you walk through it and you're like, oh yeah, low line, because it sets you up right for the corner. But you can really see why people would want to jump to the high line.
Yeah.
And it does set you up better for that right-hander, because that low line, the tree there is like,
Right.
and there's this crazy route that if you, and I think that's what happened to Greg, is like if
Pushes you into the tree, right?
you just, it's just the way you would hit it, it would naturally just flow you right into the tree.
Got it.
Yeah, it was, that section was, it's just the beginning of the track and you're like, whatever.
Right.
But it really was, you had to be considerate of it right out of the gate, which I think is hard. But yeah, it is that lower rock section, that new section they added. I'd just love to see a course that was just, like, I don't know. It just, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting seeing people ride just nasty rock gardens.
Yeah.
Because it's just it just seems so counterintuitive. Like, how does this even work?
It's,
Yeah.
Like, how are the tires not just all blowing up all the time?
So on our bike park tour, we hit some bike parks where they love, like in the Rocky Mountains, rock gardens. They just love them. They
Yep.
love those frickin' things.
Yeah.
I was so spooked. Like, I can't go that fast. And I'd sit there for a minute and the guys are just whipping on through that. That's doable. Holy crap. But like
Well-
the error, the commitment without failure is so scary.
So there's a
Much more than roots. Like
there's
roots,
a-
I'm like, whatever,
yeah.
right?
I think
Slippery roots, not a problem.
there's a
right?
given speed,
where you float almost, right? Almost like a ski boat kind of thing.
you know,
with
and
the chop.
you always hear interviews with pros, and I remember it was like way back when it was back when they raced Schweitzer.
Got it.
They were interviewing
Yeah.
Greg
Yeah.
or somebody, and I think it was Greg, and they're talking about like, how do you do this?
Yeah.
How do you hang on a 5-minute track like this?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh man, it sounds crazy, but the faster you go, the better it is.
It's no different than break dance, right?
The
Yeah.
faster you go, the easier it is.
Yeah.
Because if you just think about deflection,
Yep.
deflection points with impact,
Yep.
the faster it is, the lower the deflection point,
Right.
because the wheel's moving at a higher rate.
Yep.
It's not going to catch.
Yep.
It's not going to put as much energy into you and the bike.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, at a certain point, it's like you just have to go faster,
Right.
which sounds really scary because if you mess up at all,
If you're off your line a little
the
bit.
consequences are so much higher.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
So I think for most people, there's probably a certain rhythm,
Yeah.
a certain sweet spot
Yeah.
of like just maybe a touch faster than what you were thinking.
Sure,
But
yeah.
you know, to just go in no brakes is I don't know. I don't think it's realistic for a lot of people.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I tend to think it's a sound thing, and it depends on the grade.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It's like a rhythm, like music. When you stand next
Sure.
to the rock garden,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a da 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 da. But it's like there's like it's almost like triplets. Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a rhythm like music,
Yeah.
and you can hear when somebody's on it, and you can hear when it's off.
Right. You look.
You
when
can
it's
hear
off,
when
right?
somebody it catches off and the rhythm
Yes,
changes.
yes.
And so it's like it's so interesting. But I imagine it does play a role in how they are riding. And how they know which lines are working for them
Yeah.
is they're listening and they're feeling and listening
Sure.
at the same time,
Yeah.
because you can tell when they're at this level, there's not a lot of thinking happening.
No, it's react. It's subconscious.
They're already
reaction
it's
to
an
the thing,
intuitive
yes.
process
Yeah.
of just they know what they're gonna do
Yeah.
because they've tried to figure it out, and they're just doing it. They don't really have room or time to be thinking about the particulars of what's going on.
Right.
And that's why the crashes happen when they
Yeah.
like they do.
They
They're
don't
just
happen,
so
yes.
sudden.
Right.
It's just over.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tebow's wreck was something else.
Yeah.
That was wild. The tree where Finn and Nina hit at the rock drop.
Yeah,
that was
bad, yeah.
that was crazy. Yeah, I mean it was.
Did you see Bernard Kerr's crash?
Yeah,
Like that looked rough.
I wasn't. I mean, obviously that was second race.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
even on the feed watching it,
Right.
like, he went down and caught like a sharp rock.
Right
with
his head. Yeah. Well, and Millie's wreck. I don't know if that was publicized much. But that was
I looked away.
I was in that section for a long time.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Yeah,
It was fun to
the
watch.
triple to the double, right? Before the big turn is really what it was, right? It step down, and then a triple. Is that right? Or is there just one step down in there? It's kind of a lower section before you get to the.
No, that was just
I'm thinking of Emily. That's what I'm thinking of. The other gal, the woman who crashed the second day.
Oh no, yeah, that was
The one that got airlifted out of there.
that was Jessica Blewett.
That's who it was.
Yeah, just Blewett. Her wreck was insane.
Yes.
I think that was just fatigue, and she got bucked on that jump.
Yeah.
No, Millie, John said.
Yeah.
That was like the technical S turns with mixed rocks and roots.
Okay.
It was just past the big rock gap out in the open.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking for inside lines and seconds in that section because it's really slow and awkward. And there's a ton of speed to make up.
Got
So
it.
people were practicing that like crazy. And there was so many choices. But no, she just got her front wheel pushed as she was coming into the final compression at the bottom before it straightened out. And then there was those big berms.
Yes. Yeah.
So like her front wheel just slipped and there was this rock. And you look at it and you're like, well, I like that there's embedded rocks and there's challenges and it was painted.
Yes.
And this is the natural course and I agree that you should just leave certain things to be, but if there ever was a rock that should be removed
That was it.
from the middle of the track,
Got it.
it's that rock.
Got it.
And her front wheel just washed and it caught the thing and her
Got
bike
it.
just stopped immediately.
Got it.
And it was full just face neck into the ground, like hands in pockets.
Got it.
It looked
Yeah.
like her wreck in Maribor, but just without rocks.
Got it.
And it just, it was kind of, it was hard to watch.
Yeah.
She got up, she raced. She's a tough girl.
Right.
But
Right.
so there were some nasty wrecks. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what it was like for Tebow. I mean,
Yeah.
his bone went through the skin.
Yes.
He had a
Jeez.
full. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so that
You can see the adrenaline
Yep.
kick in because he's out walking around. He pushed his bike for a while.
Yeah.
I guess Aaron picked up his bike
Yeah.
for a little bit, said, "Hey, let me push that for you, buddy."
Yeah.
Maybe
No,
after
that
the blood went through the sock.
like I
don't
said,
know,
that
but-
section, it was interesting because a lot of people just rolled through it and it looked smooth.
Yep.
And they made it work.
Yep.
And then, but it was just like there was only a couple different ways that you could ride it.
Right.
There was only a couple different options, and if you got offline just ever so slightly, the problem was right at that rock roll, there was an inside and an outside,
Yeah.
and the outside was low with a rut that became loose very quickly.
Sure.
And it was kind of on a slide off camber.
Yeah.
And it's like if you went to that outside, you ran the risk of the front wheel pushing through that loose
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened to.
Yeah.
Well, he almost got into that before the roll.
I agree.
Or it was actually in like the midpoint of the roll. But yeah, basically that was like a really steep hillside that they had cut that on.
Yeah.
And so it just like, it was, that section was really precise.
It looked like his front wheel came off. His front tire.
It may
off the
have.
bead.
I mean, I
That's
don't,
what it looked- I
I
mean, I
don't,
feel
I
like
don't
you
like,
walked
I don't
slow
like
motion,
to,
right?
I don't necessarily like to go too much into equipment stuff.
Of course.
But I'm really surprised that a company that has been so fervently committed to building aluminum bikes only
Yes. Runs Envy.
puts
carbon
their
wheels.
the success of their entire team
Yep.
on what you could argue to be some of the most fragile rims
Correct.
out there.
Correct.
Not, I mean, they are what they are, but they had wheel and rim problems all week.
Correct.
It was obvious, and it became kind of like, oh yeah,
Well, speaking of your shirt, right? Like, there's a reason Santa Cruz decided to build their own rims.
and those guys.
It wasn't 'cause
I
Andy was
didn't see
kick-ass,
any.
right?
I didn't see any problems with them throughout the entire week.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it was like you would constantly see their bikes with different colored hubs.
Okay, got it.
'Cause
That's
they
a
ra-
new wheel set.
They
Yeah.
race on orange hubs
Got it.
because that's their race wheels.
Yeah.
That's the factory scheme.
Yeah, yeah.
They race on Orange King hubs.
Yeah.
But you would see the rear hubs being black, gray, like they got spares around.
Right.
And I can't. Yeah, I mean, it was shocking to me. I'm just like, of all the things.
Well, he had Kushcore in there on the front.
No.
Doesn't Envy have their
No,
own little?
that's what they have. They didn't.
Really? Okay, I
the
thought I
T-
saw a big gray-looking monster.
They may have added it.
Eddie Masters thought it was Kushcore. That's why I said.
Well,
he
they may
mentioned
have added it, but Tebow's failure on the first race
Yeah.
in quality.
Yeah.
No, that was race run. First race, when you see the wheel fail,
Yeah.
it's just black.
Got it.
It's just rim strip.
Got it.
There's no insert in there that I could see.
Got it.
And realistically, you would think it's like if it's Schwalbe as their title
It'd be
sponsor,
Procore.
why isn't it Procore?
Correct.
Why are they not
Exact
running?
same
Why
thing.
is there not a blue tube in
Yes,
there?
exactly.
So I don't know. I guess I'm really confused. You know, Loris flatted in practice when we were there on the first day in the rocks.
Yep.
And it's just sealant, and there's nothing. Some of these guys are not running Procore or Cushcore.
Interesting.
And I'm just like, why?
Right.
I mean, it's got to be a feel thing, I guess. But I'm just at a course like that, it just seems like you would need.
There's nothing nice about the feel of no Kush core on the back.
Anyway, yeah, it was interesting to see that kind of stuff and to understand that there must be a lot of money and politics going on in that whole
good
realm.
point. Right.
Because you're like, okay, they must be paying them a good amount of money.
I was
Because
going to say, what does the NV sponsorship look like for Common
I
Salt?
get it.
I'm sure it's very attractive.
you know, and I think their bars are great. I could see for sure from a feel
Okay.
perspective, but.
All right.
It just seems like there's only a handful of carbon rims really up to the job these days.
Right.
You know, they're few and far between.
Right.
It just seems like that, as far as if we're talking about this level of riding,
Yep. Yep.
when it's just pure rocks, pure
Yep.
nasty,
Yep.
and the fastest riders in the world who don't want to be told that they have to slow down or take a different line.
Correct.
Because that's essentially what's happening. You can see them struggling with it.
Yeah.
You can see them wrestling with line choice versus
Equipment.
the equipment surviving.
Yeah.
It's like you have to, your bike has to make it.
Yes.
It was kind of old school. It was a war of attrition to a certain extent. There was a lot of mechanicals this week.
Okay.
You know, I mean, Reese bent his chainring, lost his chain right at the last minute.
I
You know, it was like
Yep.
there was a lot of problems with gear, which to me is really cool to see.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, there's room for improvement.
Because we thought we solved it all, right?
There's
It
room
feels
for
like we
improvement.
have. but
These
yeah.
things can be better.
Yeah.
These guys are finding the limits of the gear, and so that means there's room for engineering development.
Right.
It's not just done. So
It's funny, in the stark contrast,
Surprising.
you have Jack Moyer
yes,
pounding his rim back into shape with a rock.
Correct.
In between stages. Like,
Yes.
Like you have Deprella
right,
essentially losing the World Cup because
Yeah.
of a carbon rim failure.
Right.
And Jack winning because he could bang it back into.
right,
What are we doing?
right. So it's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. Like, yeah, I wrestle with it. I guess I'm surprised that it's not just DT Swiss aluminum rims as far as the eye can see.
Correct, right.
Not to play
A whole
favorites.
palette, right?
Not to play favorites, but it's like
Yes.
of the rims I work with, those are by and large they've survived the best. They're the
Right.
best weight to strength ratios. They just work really well.
And
So
have been for some time.
for some time, they're
Right.
extremely proven product,
Right.
and you still see a lot of the top guys still running those.
Yes.
And it's just religiously running, bucking trends and running 471 across the board on a
Right.
narrow aluminum
Yes.
rim.
Yeah.
And you're scratching your head going, well, this doesn't look like any bike I see on sale.
Correct.
But why are these all over the place?
Yes.
And it's for a reason.
Because they still work.
And you also have to assume too that maybe a slightly narrower rim is also going to be your friend in nasty stuff.
Yep.
Because the rim isn't there to catch the rocks as much. It's tighter. There's more rubber.
Yep.
There's more cush core hanging over.
Yep.
There's more protecting the edge of the rim, or the tire can deflect around the rim more, as opposed to that bigger edge being more likely to get caught by something. So it was really interesting to see the stuff. I mean, you could just hear, it was like gunshots going off left, right, and center, man.
Got it.
Yeah,
Rims
I mean,
in.
you can hear some of the videos I took.
Yes.
They're coming through, and you hear like, "Ka!" It was just this big, loud bang, and you just, ugh, like, it would just, you have a gut response
Yes.
when you hear it. You're like,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
it's just brutal, and they're not running low pressure,
No.
and it just,
No.
yeah, I mean, it's just the way that these guys are pushing hard,
Right.
and they're just riding as aggressively as they can, and it's beating stuff up.